Think about the last time you walked into a high-end restaurant, a luxury hotel lobby, or even just a busy downtown street. You probably noticed the loud signals of wealth, the designer logos plastered across clothing, the flashy sports cars revving their engines, and the people making sure everyone in the room knows exactly how much they spent to be there. We live in a culture that obsesses over this version of success. We are constantly bombarded with images of private jets, massive mansions, and extravagant lifestyles, assuming that is what true financial freedom looks like. But there is a quiet revolution happening. A growing group of people have realized that the most powerful version of wealth is completely invisible. They're the ones wearing plain t-shirts, driving practical sedans, and carrying themselves with the calm confidence that money can't buy. They don't have a massive social media following, they don't brag about their investments at dinner parties, and you would never guess their net worth just by looking at them. But behind the scenes, they have built an unshakable financial foundation that allows them to live life entirely on their own terms. These are the quietly wealthy. It turns out that building this type of stealth wealth isn't a matter of luck or inheriting a fortune. It is the direct result of a specific set of daily behaviors. If you've ever wondered how some people manage to build massive wealth without ever looking like they are trying, it all comes down to 7 distinct habits. The first habit revolves around how they measure success, and it comes down to what we can call the internal scorecard. Most people in modern society operate on an external scorecard. They measure their personal worth and achievements based on how they stack up against their neighbors, their friends, or random strangers on the internet. If a coworker buys a brand new luxury SUV, they suddenly feel like their perfectly reliable car is inadequate. The quietly wealthy operate on a completely different frequency. Their sense of validation comes entirely from within. They don't need a luxury emblem on their steering wheel to feel successful because they already know their bank account is healthy. When you switch to an internal scorecard, something magical happens to your finances. You stop spending money on things you don't even care about just to impress people you don't even like. You become completely immune to the keeping up with the Joneses trap. If a quietly wealthy person buys something nice, they do it purely because they genuinely appreciate the quality, not because they want the world to watch them use it. This single shift in psychology saves them an enormous amount of money and eliminates a massive source of daily anxiety. This leads directly into the second habit, which is the intentional decoupling of income from lifestyle. You've probably seen this pattern happen countless times. Someone gets a major promotion at work or lands a higher-paying job, and within a few months, their lifestyle expands to swallow that new income whole. They get a bigger apartment, start eating at expensive restaurants, and upgrade their entire wardrobe. They are making more money than ever, but their financial vulnerability stays exactly the same because they are still living paycheck to paycheck. Quietly wealthy people have mastered the habit of keeping their baseline expenses relatively stable, even as their earnings grow. When their income scales up, their day-to-day spending barely moves. Instead of using a raise to buy more liabilities, they immediately channel that extra money into buying assets. They understand a fundamental truth about personal finance. True wealth is not about how much money you make, it is about how much money you keep. By maintaining a comfortable but modest lifestyle while their income rises, they create a massive financial gap. That gap is where financial independence is born. The third habit is that they aggressively value time over status trophies. Think about the trade-offs you make every single day. Are you trading your precious hours to save a few dollars, or are you willing to spend your money to buy back your time? For the quietly wealthy, time is the ultimate currency. They view money not as a tool to collect physical possessions, but as a mechanism to buy freedom. When they reach a stable financial position, they start outsourcing tasks that drain their energy and productivity. They will happily pay someone else to mow the lawn, clean the house, or handle tedious administrative work. They aren't doing this to look elite. They're doing it because they realize that an extra 4 hours on the weekend spent with family, working on a passion project, or simply resting is infinitely more valuable than any luxury item. This habit also dictates their career choices. A quietly wealthy person will easily turn down a high-stress corporate advancement that comes with a massive raise if it means sacrificing their weekends and working 80 hours a week. They recognize that if you do not have control over your own time, you aren't truly wealthy, no matter how big your paycheck is. The fourth habit is one of the most fascinating social behaviors they practice, and that is the mastery of stealth wealth conversations. Have you ever been at a social gathering where the entire conversation revolves around money, real estate portfolios, or expensive vacations? It can feel incredibly alienating, and many people feel immense pressure to participate or inflate their achievements to fit in. Quietly wealthy people have developed the habit of deflecting financial conversations entirely. When someone asks them about their business, their career success, or how much they paid for an asset, they don't boast. In fact, they usually downplay their situation. They will say things like, "Oh, we're doing all right," or "We've just been fortunate," and then immediately pivot the conversation back to the other person. They do this intentionally to protect their peace. They understand that talking openly about having money fundamentally changes how people treat you. It can attract unwanted attention, create envy among friends, or complicate family dynamics. By keeping their financial success a secret, they ensure that the relationships they build are based on who they are as individuals, not on the size of their bank account. The fifth habit changes how they view every transaction, and it is a hyper-focus on value rather than price. There is a common misconception that wealthy people are either incredibly cheap or incredibly extravagant. The reality for the quietly wealthy is much more nuanced. A cheap person looks at the price tag and always chooses the lowest number regardless of quality. An extravagant person looks at the brand name and assumes the highest number means the best status. A quietly wealthy person looks at the utility, longevity, and overall return on investment. They will happily spend a premium on a high-quality mattress, a reliable computer, or a pair of classic shoes that will last for a decade, because they know it saves them money and discomfort in the long run. But at the same time, they will completely skip out on luxury upgrades that offer no real practical value. They won't pay triple for a designer logo on a basic shirt, and they won't pay exorbitant fees for a trendy experience that doesn't genuinely fulfill them. They have calibrated their minds to see through marketing illusions and focus purely on what actually improves their quality of life. The sixth habit is all about removing human friction from the process of building wealth, which they achieve by automating the invisible gap. One of the biggest reasons people struggle to save money is that it requires constant active willpower. Every single month, you have to look at your checking account and make the conscious, sometimes painful decision to move money into investments instead of spending it on immediate gratification. Because human willpower is a limited resource, we eventually have a stressful day and blow that money on retail therapy. Quietly wealthy people bypass this psychological trap entirely. They set up their financial systems so that a significant portion of their income is automatically deducted and sent to investment accounts before they ever see it. By making their savings invisible, they eliminate the daily decision-making process. They simply learn to live comfortably on whatever's left over in their primary account. Because the money was never practically available to spend, they never feel like they are sacrificing anything. Over years and decades, this automated habit works quietly in the background, compounding into a massive fortune while requiring zero daily effort. The seventh and perhaps most profound habit of the quietly wealthy is that they view money as a shield, not as a sword. Most of society views money as a sword. It is treated as an aggressive tool used to conquer social hierarchies, win arguments, signal superiority, and dominate rooms. People use their spending to loudly scream for attention. But the quietly wealthy view money exclusively as a shield. To them, money is a protective barrier that sits between their loved ones and the chaos of the world. It is the ultimate insurance policy against hardship. When you have a substantial, quiet financial cushion, you know you can handle an unexpected medical issue without going into debt. You know you can walk away from a toxic work environment or an unethical business partnership without worrying about how you're going to pay rent next month. You know that if the economy takes a sudden downturn, you have the resilience to survive for months or even years without panicking. This shift from using money as a weapon of status to a shield of protection completely changes how you interact with the world. You stop walking into rooms trying to prove something, and you start walking into rooms knowing you're safe. At the end of the day, being quietly wealthy is a conscious choice about what kind of life you want to lead. It is a peaceful rejection of the loud, chaotic, and stressful cycle of consumerism that keeps so many people running on a financial hamster wheel. It is the deep realization that the greatest luxury money can ever buy is not a flashier car, a bigger house, or a designer label. The greatest luxury money can buy is the ability to wake up in the morning, look at the day ahead, and realize that you completely own your time. You don't need anyone else's approval, you don't need to prove anything to the world, and you are entirely in control of your own destiny. Building that reality doesn't require an extraordinary stroke of luck or a flashy lifestyle. It starts with the small, quiet choices you make every single day.